right, we have ourselves a wood chipper here, and wouldn't you know it, it won't start. So let's go through the diagnostic process and then hopefully the fixing process to get this thing back up and running so the customer can chip his leaves, brush, and sticks. All right, so the first thing you should do on any machine that you don't know the history of, or any machine for that matter, is check your oil. This thing, oh my gosh. It's not supposed to look like that. This is thick. Well, you know it has an oil-like substance in it, so that's, I guess, good. There's some gas in it, and it's stale as can be. So let's see if this thing has spark. All right, so let's see here. Spark checker 3000. All right, we have spark, so we're good on that front. All right, so what I'm gonna do is get this thing on the bench so I'm not bending over like a Neanderthal. Save our backs, people. We're not getting any younger, you know. As a matter of fact, the carb is on this side, so we're gonna bring it up this way. And then although we know this thing has spark, we're gonna give it a little bit of juice, see if it'll fire off. Filter's gross, as we expected. This choke is jacked up too, so we're gonna have to play around with that. See, these things are so hard to pull over. All right, so it doesn't want to turn on. So let's figure that out. All right, so I'm actually going to do a compression test on this thing. These, when you're pulling these over, you're spinning this whole fan assembly, the chipper assembly, if you will. So it's really hard to tell if you have compression or not because, well, you're spinning over this entire thing. It's hard to pull over anyways. Now, I could hear it coming through the intake. I could hear compression, but I just like to see if it has it and what numbers we're getting out of it. So we'll hook up our tester, see what this thing's putting out for some numbers, and then we'll go from there. All right, can you see that? Cool. So, I don't know if you can see that. It says 60 pounds. So, we're going to try this again. $59. So I'll show you an old trick that I was taught back in the day by an old timer. If you're reading low on compression, now a Tecumseh technically will run on 60. It's not the best, but they'll run. But a lot of the times when you have numbers like that, there's going to be an issue within the valve train. However, my thought process now while looking at that oil that we had that was full of water, this thing is clearly has been sitting outside for a long time. So the chances of the cylinder having some problems or the rings having some issues are pretty high. So what I like to do is just take a little bit of oil, like 1 or 2 ounces of oil, and just pour it down the spark plug hole. And then we're actually going to reinstall our compression tester. Now what we're looking for is the number to A, go up, or B, stay the same. If that number goes up, then we know we have an issue within the cylinder, and this thing's probably going to go to the junkyard. because I think the customer got this thing for free, just like a lot of my customers do. So, but we'll see. Let's see what we get. A little bit of oil down the cylinder. Let's crank it over now. All right, so as you can see, we jumped up to 91 pounds. So that's clearly showing me that probably the rings or the cylinder itself is scored. Because basically what we did there with that oil is sealed off whatever was leaking prior. So before there was air getting past the rings or the cylinder itself, putting oil down there kind of created the seal, and it obviously made more compression. So that shows me right there that there's an issue within the cylinder itself, whether it be the rings or the piston itself, that's causing this thing to have low compression, which is not going to be a valve issue. Clearly it's something internal, which again, I don't think the customer is going to want to fix on this thing. So some people might argue, but that's a good trick. I was taught that by a guy who was 30, 40 years in the field. He's since passed on, but basically he always told me if you have low compression, throw a little bit of oil down there. If it rises, then you know you have a ring problem or something like that. Basically, if it doesn't rise, then obviously the rings and everything were sealing correctly. We were getting bad numbers because of something in the valve train. Basically, to explain it to you guys, by putting oil down the cylinder, I'm basically sealing that engine. So when we pulled that over, we were getting the 60 pounds of pressure. There was air escaping through whether it be the rings or the piston itself. By putting oil down the cylinder, you're sealing up those ports or those holes or whatever it is, whether the ring's welded on there or something scored, something like that. So by putting oil down, it blocked those passages, aka raising the compression. Now, if the ring and piston were good, putting the oil down wouldn't change anything because we would get the same numbers we had gotten prior if this cylinder was actually sealing correctly. So if nothing changed when we put the oil down, we're going to know, hey, there's some kind of leakage going on within our valve train or something else inside the engine. It's not going to be the piston and rings. But just a cool little test for you. That's why I always try to test compression numbers and stuff like that on a machine, especially like this where you saw the oil the way it was. Could I have probably gotten this thing to run? Probably. I could probably get it to run, but it's going to run like crap and it ain't going to run long. So why waste the customer's money getting this thing running? I'm just going to tell them, hey, this thing's pretty much kaput on its last legs. You know, that's it. So I hope you learned something from this video. A little cool, different way to test things. And we're going to get this thing off my bench and I'll make the phone call later. I don't feel like doing it right now. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you.